tar for the state? Is that, who put it that way?
I did. It's not a recognized pavement mark.
So I've got an unrecognized line on my road.
True.
How would that deal if I got in an accident? I could turn the tables on somebody here or what?
Well, that would be a mean thing to do. So you serious, well, we have you on tape saying it's a
We
godsend,
just
so
had a
it'd
guy
be
running
kinda
the
hard.
pole. We just had a guy running the pole on our road, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. So, I just plead, I can see how those people feel. And one other comment while I'm up here, for our new basin, whatever you wanna call it, lake or pond, are we gonna put up there no swimming signs? That sort of has me worried about, not liability-wise for the township, if you don't put a sign up, because they swim in there during the summertime.
Yeah.
I've seen them in there, and it just concerns me that without a sign, it opens us up to liability.
And I've heard there's people kayaking in there already, so we should take a look at that. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, any other comments for,
Here's one, right there.
yes.
So they're going to do the Turnpike, going to make it 3 lanes all the way up. Has the township been in on any of that? Do you know if we're getting any sound walls along any of the sections of the Turnpike up through Quakertown?
I don't know anything about it. We haven't been brought into anything.
Yeah, I was afraid of
think
that.
that's a
I don't
shame.
think we're getting them, and it's a shame because it really does. I mean, I can hear the Turnpike at my house all the way over on Allentown Road.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to get the sound walls. I think I believe they probably think it's a rural area that doesn't affect many people, where it really does affect a lot of people. There's a lot of people living in those woods. This time of year when there's no leaves on, of course you can hear it more, but you're talking to PennDOT, is there any chance you could check that out when you're talking to PennDOT?
Put it on the list.
No, that's the Turnpike Commission.
Right, so
Yeah.
they're not gonna know.
PennDOT won't know what the Turnpike Commission is doing.
You can ask them anyway.
We could do that.
Different hallway.
Yeah, I tried looking it up online too, because
Okay.
they have information about it and, what they're doing and all, but I don't see anything on it about walls, so I'm thinking we're not getting them.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there any other public comment? Yes.
I feel like I have to talk really fast in like 2.5 minutes. So,
Now, go ahead.
regarding the fireworks ordinance and all this is new to us.
Excuse me, one thing, I want to make something clear. The ordinance is just for the selling of fireworks.
Correct.
Not shooting them off, okay?
Okay,
Yeah.
Linda Marks, 710,000
Yeah.
Acre Road. Taking off from that, does the township have a noise ordinance or a time ordinance regarding fireworks? I directly reference Good Friday on our road, one of our neighbors setting off fireworks. I'm perfectly fine with. Nobody's picking on this person. I'm perfectly fine with people enjoying a half an hour's worth of fireworks. What I'm not perfectly fine with is 6 hours of heavy explosives going off from about 3 in the afternoon to about maybe 9, 10 or so at night. And also, are there consequences for a resident who has had the police called on them several times, that the police have had to come out because when the police leave, then they start the activity again. So we're wasting police money having to continually come out. So that's 2 parts. What are our restrictions and what are the consequences when you just ignore what the police are advising you not to do?
Well, I can handle the first one, I don't know what you want to do with the
I want
second
to
one.
correct one thing that. It's actually 6 hours and 55 minutes of fireworks because I caught it all on my security cameras.
Okay. But it was just.
And I can play it for you if you'd
I
like.
can enjoy some nice fireworks.
I agree,
can't
I agree,
enjoy, it
so,
sounded like the
right.
quarry blasting
Yeah,
for 6 hours.
yeah, right.
Well,
Yeah.
on a personal level, I just wonder how nice they can be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but,
Right, yeah.
Right.
if you go back to what I was talking about before, the state regulates how, we regulate where. So, if the state says that consumers can set off fireworks, we have noise ordinances, and then there's nuisance regulations that, or nuisance concepts between property owner and neighbors, like neighbors can sue neighbors if they make it really difficult to live next to them. But our ordinance really just can't talk about how long you can, set fireworks off. And the noise ordinance, the noise regulations and the zoning ordinance are very hard to enforce because the nature of zoning enforcement, you have to give the person written notice before you can start the civil enforcement proceeding, and written notice takes a day or two, so that's, for the noise regulations and the zoning ordinance are more to address things like continuous noise. If you're next to the hospital and their HVAC system is cranking out at like 100 decibels, that's what your zoning ordinance is there to protect. So we don't have too much of a remedy if it goes on for 6 hours. Private property owners may have like a remedy against their neighbor if that happens, and then I'm not sure what to say about, the police. I know that Greg and I talked, and we're gonna try and work with the police to let them know which kind of fireworks can be classified as consumer fireworks and which are display fireworks, so that, it's really clear that they understand what the difference is.
Yeah. Yes.
Parry Law 521 Thousand Acre Road. The night of that incident, I had the policeman, he did stop, young fella, and I asked him about the noise ordinance. He said he was 20 decibels over what the township's limit is. So was anything done about that? Why wasn't he cited right then and there?
And that's what I'm trying to explain to you. Those decibel limits, this is so legal. The decibel limits are in the zoning ordinance. The state tells us how we enforce zoning regulations. The state says if you think somebody's violating the zoning ordinance, you have to send them a written notice that they're violating. If they don't bring it into compliance within 5 days, or appeal to the zoning hearing, but within 30 days, then you can take the case, to court or to JP court. So it's not the kind of thing where the police can go out and write a citation like they can other summary offenses. The zoning officer has to issue violations of the zoning ordinance, not the police.
Well, the wife and I stood out there for 3 hours with our horse, trying to keep him calmed down. She tranquilized him twice. And I told the policeman this, and he said, well, I think you're over-exaggerating. I said, what do you know about a horse? And he did not say a single word back to me. I just think the township needs to pass an ordinance, no fireworks whatsoever in West Rockhill Township, period. That would eliminate a lot of the bullshit as far as I'm concerned, and that's what it is.
Other comments? Yes.
I just want to maybe tell a little story of how I handled a noise problem at my home. I live next to the Homestead campground, and for years I had a problem with them with noise because they had a PA system going and they played music that I didn't particularly appreciate, and it was quite loud. So one weekend I put my very large speakers out behind my house, and I turned jazz music on, and I left it on the entire weekend. That speaker system has never been on again. There's other ways to deal with this, and maybe people need to consider some other ways.
Well,
No guns.
I prefer that people take a more civil approach, but
I think
yes,
that's
Mrs.
civil.
Mark.
The message got across.
Oh, I
That's
understand.
communication.
Yeah,
Is
yes.
there, well, and I understand that, but we don't want to like dicker with our
Right,
neighbors.
yeah.
Is there a time limit in the evening, like not past 10 o'clock, not past 11 o'clock, for loud noises like that?
Again, those noise regulations are in the zoning ordinance, and yes, the like levels do decrease after, I think it's 10 o'clock at night, but you're subject to the same very difficult enforcement proceedings in the zoning ordinance. Whether it's, 3 o'clock in the afternoon or midnight, you still have to go through the notice of violation proceeding.
So they could do this all night and we wouldn't be able to do anything about it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
As I said, if this is something that happens routinely, and this is something that happens in your neighborhood all the
Okay,
time,
quiet, please.
then I would suggest that you can consult an attorney, because there are private property remedies that are available, if it's a chronic problem. But as far as enforcing it under the zoning ordinance, that's a really tough thing to do. Because you have to give notice and the opportunity to cure. And nobody's going to be setting off fireworks for 5 straight days.
Yes, Tony?
Tony Bogner, Clymer Avenue. Mary, am I correct that the noise ordinance is 15 seconds sustained noise? Is that correct?
I don't remember. There are noise regulations in the zoning ordinance, and I can check that, Tony, but I don't think,
Because I seem to recall that because when my neighbors across the street were running a 24-hour operation and a tailgate slamming all night long, it wasn't a sustained noise. But it was a nuisance, I'll tell you what. But if I'm not recalling, I want to say that it's sustained and there's no fireworks that I know of that can be sustained for that period of time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Frank?
Frank Schimmelder at 1030 Allentown Road. We can't put something on the books that says you can only have fireworks for 2 hours or 3 hours between the hours of.
I think you'd have to couch it a little differently. I think it would have to be in terms of a standalone noise ordinance as opposed to a noise ordinance in the zoning ordinance.
I'm just saying fireworks, period.
I
You know,
hear
the pros don't go past 30 minutes.
Okay, I understand, thank you, thank you. I can tell you that I live on Thousand Acres, so I got a lot of phone calls, a lot of text messages. And I heard of one family who had to put a thunder jacket on their dog for 4 hours. Another family who had to take their dog to the vet. The dog had to be put down because of trauma. Harry, with his horse, he had tranquilized it twice. I heard from a family whose daughter was going to work at midnight and couldn't sleep, didn't get any sleep from after 3 o'clock. I heard from another family on Allentown Road whose husband couldn't sleep and he had to go to work at midnight. So it's these kind of things that I think we need to figure out a way to control some of this stuff. And I guess it's up to us to work with Mary and see what we can do. Yes, Tim?
If I may,
Yes, please.
as a representative of the PD, we still want everybody to call us, okay? Because with this new firearms law, if you will, there are still certain things that they can't do, all right? It has to, all fireworks have to be 150 feet from any occupied structure, which is any building where someone could reside. It could be a barn, it could be anything, so they can't just light them off right next to their house. So, they have to be 18 years old. There can be no alcohol. So please call us. It gives us a reason to get there and check. If we get there and any of these violations are happening, we will confiscate all the fireworks. If they're not happening, unfortunately, as Mrs. Everly has said and the board has said, unfortunately, in that particular situation, our hands are a little bit tied right now, okay? But please still call us. If it's an ongoing thing and it's something that's continuing, please don't think that there's nothing that we can't do. We still want to come out. We want to check to make sure that whoever's lighting off the fireworks is following the appropriate new regulations, okay?
And to help you guys, we did a little memo that if your officers want to use it, the difference between, really digging down into the difference between consumer and display, if it helps.
I actually put an email out to all the officers. I've been researching this thing for a week, literally breaking down each definition, looking at how many grains of,
Good, that's
gunpowder.
exactly, we did
And
the
so,
same thing.
it's back on our bulletin board. Each officer was actually provided it. Actually, the officer that came out and handled it that night, other than, unfortunately, the comments, I guess, that he made to you, but it was actually handled, pretty well. He came back out with our sound meter. We have a sound meter, so he was able to get some decibel readings to at least see where these fireworks are at. So we're learning as this new law is now in effect. But please don't hesitate to call us, because we do want to come out and we have an obligation to make sure that everybody that is doing the fireworks, or at least following the appropriate, laws and steps.
Okay. Yes.
Patrice Swearduck, 715 Ridge Valley Road. I haven't heard anyone say anything about considering the general landscape of the township in being very well wooded. There's generally leaf cover on the ground in the wooded areas, and if any of those sparks were to land in one of those wooded areas and it's a dry spell, which we do go through sometimes even in the summer, you'd be surprised how fast a leaf fire can
Right.
spread. I just seen it.
Okay.
So, I don't know how or where that would be considered, what
Okay.
part of the law or that it should be considered.
Well,
that-
we need to work with our fire departments too and see what ideas they have, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. Was there another comment on the sign? Yes, Harry?
I only have one thing that I wanted to bring up, and since Sergeant's here, I got called, my wife called approximately around 7:20 something on Friday evening. We never seen the police car come down the road till approximately 20 after 9. And I called, she called, we'd talked to you, you said that there were numerous calls. I even called the state police, and they said, well, the only way they could come out is if the local police called for assistance. So, why did it take so long for a policeman to get out there on Good Friday? That would be one of my questions.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment? All right, thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much for coming out tonight.